everybody, today I'm reviewing the new fine weave mesh hourglass underbust corset made by Timeless Trends. So here's the front, the side, the back, and the other side. The center front here is 11.5 inches, and at the princess seam from under the bust to the top of the lap is 10 inches. 5.5 of those inches are from the waist up and 4.5 are from the waist down. This is measured from the bottom of the waist tape, which I'm not sure is visible on camera, but it is visible in person through the transparent mesh here. The side seam here, it is 9.5 inches, and in the center back it is 12.75 inches. For the circumferential measurements, today I'm wearing the size 24, and when I measured it right out of the box, it indeed measured 24 inches in the waist. The rib cage measured 30 inches, so it has a 6-inch rib spring, and that is a little bit less than I originally patterned for about three and a half years ago. When I helped develop this pattern, we were trying to decide between 6 and 7-inch rib spring, and we just decided to split the difference and make it 6.5. But this particular corset I'm wearing measured with a 6-inch rib spring. Not a huge difference, it's still less than an inch difference, but I just wanted to be totally transparent about that. Get it? Transparent because it's mesh. But anyways, the hips measured true. They measured 34 inches, and so it does indeed have a 10-inch hip spring. The silhouette is the same as all of their other hourglass silhouette standard length corsets, so it's slightly rounded in the rib cage here, and it juts out pretty straight in the hips. The hip stops just above my iliac crest, so it doesn't interfere with the bones in any way. And you can see that it still is slightly rounded up top in the center front top edge, as well as gently rounded in the center front at the bottom here for the lower tummy. In terms of its rigidity or flexibility, it is a mesh corset. It is mostly a single layer through most of the panels, so it is a little bit softer than some of their 3-layer corsets, and I found that I was able to break it in much more quickly. However, it's not quite as floppy as, say, like a open weave mesh, kind of like that fishnet style. It is a little bit heavier duty than that. It doesn't have quite as much stretch to it. Now, it may expand a little bit because almost all of my mesh corsets have, to at least some extent, over several months. But in terms of softness, I would say that this is pretty much on par with their light corsets, which I believe is now called their novice corsets. And it's a little bit more breezy because of the mesh itself. So let's go to the tabletop portion of this review, and I can show you the other details of this corset close up. Okay, so here is the Timeless Trends new fine mesh corset laid flat. And for the materials, the center front panel has 2 layers to it. It has to, because it needs to sandwich the busk and that adjacent bone in between 2 layers here. But the outer fabric is a lush kind of matte black satin, and on the inside it's cotton twill. You can see on the center back panel, it is a single layer with the matte black satin on the outside, and it's laminated to the cotton twill on the inside. So technically it is 2 layers, but they've been laminated together and treated as one. And for the boning channels, on the outside it's black satin again, and on the inside you can see that it's been lined with, it looks like almost like a cotton binding. It's a herringbone weave cotton ribbon. So here is a close-up of the new mesh fabric, and you might be able to hear the sound that it makes when I rub my nail on it. It's so fine I can barely even see the weave, but obviously it is transparent. It is slightly breathable, although it is a synthetic fabric, but it has an interesting kind of a very smooth, waxy feel to it that is reminiscent of perhaps a lightweight raincoat or a windbreaker. But it is a much softer and less rigid kind of fabric compared to their old synthetic mesh. So it does mold very, very quickly to the body. It doesn't take as long to break in. And the seam allowances, like the edges where this fabric is cut to make the panels, is not as pokey. And this is what the mesh in their old synthetic mesh corsets looked like. So it's a little bit of a looser weave, but it's still very, very strong. It's a little bit more rigid.
Because it's synthetic, again, like it's not going to be as breathable as the very fishnet style open netting, but it still allows like little holes for your skin to breathe and for sweat to go through. But this style of mesh corset is a little bit heavier. The seams might be a little bit pokey just due to the nature of the fabric, although you can cut those very easily with a nail clipper. And here I am just overlaying the two different styles of mesh corset so you can see the difference in the weave, and side by side as well. It's nothing like I've ever experienced before in a mesh corset. So it's not organza, it's not tulle, it's not the typical very rigid corsetry mesh made from nylon. It is kind of in a category all on its own. Here's a Timeless Trends label, contents, and cleaning instructions on the underside here. Here's the Made in Thailand tag and size 24. So the pattern is the same as their other standard length hourglass corsets. It's a 6-panel pattern. So panel 1, 2, and 3 make the front, 4, 5, and 6 make the back. The difference here is that it looks like a lot more panels because it has bones in the middle of the panels instead of being two right on the seam, like double boned on the seams here. So the mesh panels were obviously, they're a single layer, so they were assembled. I'm assuming that the seam allowances are on the inside, and these little boning channels or the ribbons here are covering the inside. So yes, it was all treated as a single layer because it effectively is. The very, very back panel here, it actually has like a strip that's wrapped around. So that's actually 3 layers of fabric that the grommets are punched into. And you can plainly see a full waist tape going from the center front of this corset to the center back, made from 1-inch wide black grosgrain ribbon, and it's secured down at each boning channel. And here's a close-up of the binding. It's made from matching strips of black satin because it's the exact same type of satin as the rest of the boning channels and the rest of the corset here. So this was actually cut from fabric, and this was machine stitched on both the outside and on the inside here. So on the inside you can see that there's a little bit of a top stitch on the outside. They stitched in the ditch, and this does not have any garter tabs on the inside. Like with all other underbust corsets by Timeless Trends, this does not come with a back Modesty panel. However, if you want a Modesty panel, they do sell Modesty panels separately, and they are boned and they suspend on the laces. However, all of the hourglass underbust corsets come with a Modesty placket. So this is 1/2 inch wide, unstiffened, finished in the same black satin, and extending out from the knob side of the busk here. The busk in this corset is 10 inches long, 1/2 inch wide, so it's a standard flexible busk, and it has 5 loops and pins, all equidistantly spaced. It also has an adjacent 3/8 inch wide flat steel bone on either side of the busk to give it a little bit more rigidity. This corset has a total of 24 bones, 12 on each side. It does not have 26 bones like the other corsets because it's single boned on the seams and also single boned in the middle of the panels. So it's better dispersed as opposed to double boned on every seam here. So these ones in individual channels here, these are 1/4 inch wide spiral steel bones. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can see that these do lightly attract my magnet here. And like I just mentioned, there is a flat steel bone adjacent to the busk here for extra rigidity, and there are also 2 flat steel bones sandwiching the grommets in the back here, and you can see that these very plainly attract my magnet here. And there are a total of 28 grommets in the back of this corset, 14 on each side. As usual, they are size 0 with a small to medium flange around them, finished in silver. And they're all equidistantly spaced, and they're all holding in fairly well. None of them are coming out. There's no damage around these. And a quick view of the underside of the grommets, so you can see that there is washers. They've rolled nicely, a couple of splits here and there, but they don't catch on the laces, but I think that is due to the quality of the laces themselves. Yeah, they're all holding in. And the laces are your typical 3/8 of an inch wide black flat shoelace style lacing. They have no stretch to them. They're very, very strong. They glide well through the grommets, they are long enough for my purposes, and they hold the knots and bows well, so they do their job.
The Hourglass Mesh Corset by Timeless Trends is currently only available in the standard length, as you see here, and in black, but it is available in 2 different types of mesh. So what they have on their website, they have the open weave mesh, which is kind of fishnet style, and then they have the fine weave mesh, as I'm wearing here. So if you want this style of corset that I'm wearing in this review, make sure that you go for the appropriate style and not the fishnet style or the open weave. And the price of this corset is just under $110 with free shipping within the US. So this concludes my review of the mesh standard length hourglass corset made by Timeless Trends. I hope you enjoyed this and you learned something new. If you did, please remember to click that like button down there as it helps support this channel. If you have any comments or questions about this corset or Timeless Trends in general, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, or if I'm not able to answer it, then I would be happy to pass on your questions to Timeless Trends. If you own this corset or the open weave mesh corset from Timeless Trends, also feel free to leave a comment down below and let us know what you think of it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.